Hello, basketball fans. We are live streaming. Um, so as I'm sure you all know, the NBA is suspended along with like every other major sport. Um, but the show must go on. So I thought this week I would just kind of talk about why I love basketball in general and the NBA basketball. Um, since I'm missing the league while it's suspended, I think they made the right decision in doing it. But especially if we're trying to, separate ourselves to lower the curve or whatever the hashtag is for it specifically, um, then it stands out more that the games that we enjoy watching and talking about and debating aren't happening right now. Um, so I figured I'd try this and try and start a conversation with you guys about what your favorite parts of the game and stuff are, and then kind of you guys can help me decide where we go from here with the show until we get basketball back and hopefully life as normal. Um, so from on the surface level of just like, I guess I'll back up. So I grew up um, watching basketball in Chicago, hence the Bulls stuff, even though they've been terrible for a while and pretty hard to root for. So I grew up in the 90s. I grew up with Jordan. I remember going to games as a little kid. Um, Mom got tickets through work or something like that. I used to get sit like not courtside, but 3 rows up from center court watching Jordan. We're talking late 80s, early 90s. And it was great, and so I got to see the mix of what I think makes basketball so much fun is that it's a team sport, right? And you got to work together the way you would in football or anything like that. But there are also moments where someone can just take over the game, Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, Giannis, and anyone could be hot. Giannis could be out, and Chris Middleton can take over a game in a night. And so it's kind of that great mix of a team sport. People talk about like the personal and the professional, but this is kind of like it's the team and the individual, and you get to see both. Football has some, specific personalities and stuff like that, but it's very much requires the team, right? And baseball, you have a team, but it's also very much a solo sport in ways. And basketball, I feel like has kind of the best mix, in my opinion, to let you do both. So kind of, some people like really approach the game as kind of players, right? They always played with their brothers, or they played at the park, or they play pickup games, um, or people just like worried about it journalistically and like this is their assignment and stuff like that. They appreciate as a fan. I'm kind of in between, how like as kids now or as a kid, I would like, you play pretend you're a Ninja Turtle, or like imagine you were Spider-Man. When I played basketball, it's kind of like that. I wasn't necessarily imagining as Jordan or anything. I was kind of more imagining I could play basketball because I have no shot and stuff like that. So I could put in the effort and the love of the game, but it was going to be all defense and rebounding and stuff like that because I just couldn't really hit the broadside of a barn or I'd overcompensate, clear the backboard, embarrassing stuff that happens as a kid. But it's great. It didn't stop me from getting out there. I loved it from when I was little. Going back to watching the basketball game, I was telling a story to my wife the other day that my mom told me about. I don't even remember. But so my dad, so I have ADD, and after learning that, my mom read a bunch of stuff and was like, "I bet your dad did too." And so she went back to like I remember being like a kid, like I was age 3 or 4, like cheering for Jordan, had like my poster made, everything, right? And I look over and my dad is reading the program just page to page, which isn't out of the question. We'd go on hikes and stuff. He'd stop and read all the signs. He's always doing that. And I like turned to my mom. I was like, why do we even bring this guy? Because he's at the game reading a book. And that was just maybe where his ADD was kind of hyper focused in there. Whereas my ADD is more like, ooh, butterfly. Right. But it also, ADD does have that thing where if you kind of lock onto something, you can hyper focus and almost over focus. And fantasy basketball really like scratches that itch in a really fun way for me. So by getting to play, I play fantasy football and it's great. I have a lot of fun. We play in a lot of leagues. The point system, converting it to points, I think it's, it's complicated. It's not like you can win all the time. I had a pretty bad year this year of fantasy football, but And fantasy basketball has points leagues. They're not my preferred way to play, but I like it because it's an easy way to enter, right? A lot of NBA fans trying to get into fantasy basketball can play a point league because it's not as complicated, right? And daily fantasy sports kind of support that methodology. Um, but I really like the category system. So, it works for baseball, but I don't watch baseball, so it's not for me. But I like in basketball that in fantasy basketball, if you're playing those categories and stuff, you really get something more complicated, something more intricate. So you have your own team that you're trying to run, but you're also in this league where you're just like any fantasy league, you make friends and stuff like that. We started our oldest league back in 2004, maybe. Let's see, that league champion thing. So that's 2005. So yeah, I think we've started 0405 is our longest running league. And it's, college buddies and my brother who lives out in California gets to play. And we don't play for any money on there. That league is so competitive. We don't need it. Like, it can be cutthroat and it's fun. It gives us a reason to email each other, schedule things, talk some trash, talk basketball, when the season's not there on normal schedule. When it's not there, I miss it because, like, there's not necessarily the excuse to reach out to someone and start just talking. Maybe you're trying to talk about trade, but you get to talk basketball and stuff like that. And that's kind of what I wanted to do when just starting this YouTube channel. I wanted an outlet to get to talk basketball because I like it. It's fun. It's fun to watch, and it's fun to meet more people who care about the same thing, right? Like, I think of fantasy basketball players as a community. We may all play on different platforms or have different shows, or prefer Roto because they're trying to make money and it's less, full of whim as a head-to-head playoffs are, or something like that. But we're still a group and we're out there tweeting about it and posting comments on YouTube and stuff like that. And the idea of both basketball going away for now, while we try and like curtail the spread of the disease, but also the show going away, or all the fantasy shows or basketball shows stopping, like, seemed sad to me, right? Especially if a lot of people are home, or ESPN's doing clickbait and stuff like that. So I think the show needs to go on, and I want to keep talking to you guys, but I also wanted to be useful. So I thought this episode, talking about why I like basketball, why I like fantasy basketball, could maybe be the start of a conversation of why do you love basketball or fantasy basketball? Leave a comment below. You can tweet at me too, but you can leave a comment right here on the video. The more comments we have, the more YouTube will see people care about talking basketball, and maybe we can get more people involved in the conversation. I mean, like, I'm not so callous to say, oh, I don't care if more people watch the show. Obviously, I'd love that. But really, like, I want a place that we can come together, especially for all of those who are able to kind of shut themselves in a little bit more to stop the spread of the disease. Then this really, like, it's our time to do something fun, whatever we want it to be. We get a mid-season break. We never really have this. So I want to talk to you guys and sculpt, where do we go from here? What should the show be? Should we talk about dynasty prospects? Should we talk about your individual leagues? What are we going to do if the season doesn't come back? How do you figure out the champions? Or if it comes back and it's just playoffs? If we get enough people saying, I can't sort this out, I could put on a big old timey, barrister wig and act as judge and jury. We can figure out some league rulings or something. Or we can just talk about favorite games, favorite plays, players we want to look at, people have been making jumps now. We've got this dead spot in the hobby distraction lives of fantasy basketball. And it's a bummer because fantasy basketball is where a lot of people can go to distract themselves from work and bills and whatever else is going on. And so with everything else going on, to lose that just seemed like a bummer. Oh, my battery light's flashing. So yeah, I guess I will wrap it up before the battery dies, but I want to put out a show and say I'm going to keep putting out a show, and maybe more of them if we get viewers and feedback. But I appreciate your time. I appreciate all the comments and likes and feedback that I get, and I don't want to waste that time. So help me decide where we go for the next couple months and share some stories of why you love basketball or fantasy basketball, both, um, as we, get through this together as a team and as an individual, right? Just like the game. All right. Thanks, everybody. Go out and win your week. Although metaphorically go out, just try and have a win of a week. Let's not go out too much if we can help it. Cheers.